I cannot then believe in this concept of an anthropomorphic God who has the powers of interfering with these natural laws. As I said before, the most beautiful and most profound religious emotion that we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. And this mysticality is the power of all true science. Albert Einstein. The mystical trend of our time, which shows itself particularly in the rampant growth of the so-called theosophy and spiritualism, is for me no more than a symptom of weakness and confusion, since our inner experiences consist of reproductions and combinations of sensory impressions. The concept of a soul without a body seems to me to be empty and devoid of meaning. For science can only ascertain what is, but not what should be, and outside of its domain value judgments of all kinds remain necessary. Religion, on the other hand, deals only with evaluations of human thought and action. It cannot justifiably speak of facts and relationships between facts. In view of such harmony in the cosmos, which I, with my limited human mind, am able to recognize, there are yet people who say there is no God. But what really makes me angry is that they quote me for the support of such views. I received your letter of June 10th. I have never talked to a Jesuit priest in my life, and I am astonished by the audacity to tell such lies about me. From the viewpoint of a Jesuit priest, I am, of course, and have always been, an atheist. Your counter-arguments seem to me very correct and could hardly be better formulated. It is always misleading to use anthropomorphical concepts in dealing with things outside the human sphere. Childish analogies. We have to admire in humility the beautiful harmony of the structure of this world as far as we can grasp it. And that is all. I am convinced that some political and social activities and practices of the Catholic organizations are detrimental and even dangerous for the community as a whole, here and everywhere. I mention here only the fight against birth control at a time when overpopulation in various countries has become a serious threat to the health of people and a grave obstacle to any attempt to organize peace on this planet. His, Einstein, was not a life of prayer and worship, yet he lived by a deep faith, a faith not capable of rational foundation. That there are laws of nature to be discovered, his lifelong pursuit was to discover them. His realism and his optimism are illuminated by his remark, "Subtle is the Lord, but malicious he is not." Einstein's God was not the God of most other men. When he wrote of religion, as he often did in middle and later life, he tended to adopt the belief of Alice's Red Queen, that words mean what you want them to mean, and to clothe with different names what to more ordinary mortals and to most Jews looked like a variant of simple agnosticism. Replying in 1929 to a cabled inquiry from Rabbi Goldstein of New York, he said that he believed in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the harmony of all that exists, not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and actions of men. And it is claimed that years later, asked by Ben-Gurion whether he believed in God, even he, with his great formula about energy and mass, agreed that there must be something behind the energy. No doubt. But much of Einstein's writing gives the impression of belief in a God, even more intangible and impersonal than a celestial machine-minder, running the universe with indisputable authority and expert touch. Instead, Einstein's God appears as the physical world itself, with its infinitely marvelous structure operating at atomic level with the beauty of a craftsman's wristwatch, and at stellar level with the majesty of a massive cyclotron. This was belief enough. It grew early and rooted deep. Only later was it dignified by the title of cosmic religion, a phrase which gave plausible respectability to the views of a man who did not believe in a life after death, and who felt that if virtue paid off in the earthly one, then this was the result of cause and effect rather than celestial reward. Einstein's God thus stood for an orderly system obeying rules which could be discovered by those who had the courage, imagination, and persistence to go on searching for them. It was to this past which he began to turn his mind, soon after the age of 12. The rest of his life, everything else was to seem almost trivial by comparison. That a man can take pleasure in marching, in formation, to the strains of a band is enough to make me despise him. He has only been given his big brain by mistake. A backbone was all he needed. This plague spot of civilization ought to be abolished with all possible speed. 100 times every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labours of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the measure as I have received and am still receiving. Albert Einstein.